Happy Halloween, everybody. Today I'm going to be bringing you the final video for this year's Halloween, and that is my ranking of all the Halloween movies. I guess if you watched my previous video where I did my top 20 favorite horror movies, I did mention that I would be doing this video, so I'm going to go through and kind of compare and then rank I believe, is there 13? I believe if you count the two remakes, which I am, Halloween movies, 12 or 13, whatever there is. And so I'm going to be ranking them from worst to best, or least favorite to favorite, whichever one you want to say. And so I guess let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, my least favorite of these movies is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Rewatching it's still really confusing. Michael Myers is in it barely, like at the end, and it doesn't make sense for the movie. I know they were trying to explain how Michael got his powers and why he can't, I mean, if you can call them powers, and why he can't die and things, but it was just really just a weird movie, and to not have Michael Myers involved in a Halloween movie, I think, was a bad decision on the part of the creators of the movies. It was just, if you haven't seen Season of the Witch, you could probably skip over it, because really, yes, it does kind of build to later movies in the franchise, at least with The Curse of Michael Myers. But to be honest, I really didn't care about how Michael got his powers, or again, if you can call them powers. If how Michael got his willingness to not die, I guess you could say. It's not just a passion for wanting to kill Laurie Strode. It's an actual curse, and I mean, it's a good concept, I guess, but where this group basically poisoned these Halloween masks, and Michael, obviously, I think we find out in the first one that he stole his costume from a Halloween store, at least the mask part, and so I guess the mask was poisoned, and that's why he ends up murdering people. But the mask, it's not like he didn't wear it as a kid, so I would assume that whatever costume he wore as a kid would have poisoned him in some way, but the costume he wore as a kid didn't have a mask, because he was a clown. So I don't know. That's where it gets all convoluted and just confusing, but whatever. It sets up for for Curse of Michael Myers later on, so that's why it's my least favorite. My next one is Halloween 2, the remake, the Rob Zombie remake. That movie and the first remake are just garbage. I didn't like them at all, and so that's why they're down here on the list. I like Season of the Witch a little bit less than both of them. Like, I'd rather rewatch them, because at least they had Michael Myers in them, doing what Michael Myers does. So I like Halloween 2, the remake, more than Season of the Witch, and then I have the Rob Zombie remake above that, and they're both garbage movies. They really are. All three of those so far have been really garbage movies, but I decided to go in this order just because I'd rather rewatch them than Season of the Witch. The next one I have is Halloween Resurrection. It got too just out there, I think, for a Halloween movie. When you think of Halloween, you think of Michael Myers hunting down somebody to kill them, and then and that's what he does. So here, naturally, these people, Busta Rhymes is in this, Tyra Banks, they plan this basically like a video thing where they go and they stay in the old Myers house where Michael killed his sister, and they decide to film that, like, Busta Rhymes dresses up as Michael Myers and tries to scare everybody, and they make it look like Michael's back and all this other stuff, and then of course Michael is actually back and ends up actually killing everybody. So that's it was just a stupid. It was trying to be too comedic, I think, for a Halloween movie, and so that's why it's so low on my list. Next is The Curse of Michael Myers, which I mentioned earlier when I mentioned the Season of the Witch with that kind of stuff. Michael and his niece, Jamie, get kidnapped and taken to this place, and Jamie ends up pregnant with Michael's son. So he has his niece has his baby. So that's fun. That's some family drama right there. But whatever. It was just a weird movie all around. But they get kidnapped by the cult, supposedly the ones that from Season of the Witch that like cursed him, and they were trying to curse the other kids and stuff, and it was just weird. I mean, all these Halloween movies eventually got weird. Next I have is H2O, because it kind of contradicts the previous two movies, and that being Halloween 4 and 5, so The Return of Michael Myers and Revenge of Michael Myers, where Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, has a daughter named Jamie, who, and I guess Laurie Strode dies in a car crash off screen and is never even mentioned. And H2O, she has a son and she's alive. So I don't know. It wasn't a bad movie overall, but it was more of just like the 20th anniversary of Halloween, so Michael had to come back and hunt down Laurie Strode. That's basically why they had to have that movie in the first place. But not my favorite of the series. Next is Revenge of Michael Myers, which I said is the 5th one. It's decent. It's okay. Michael goes back to hunt down his niece again, who's now, I think, is she in an insane asylum or a mental hospital or something now, and Michael's tracking her down. And then Return of Michael Myers is next, and that's the one where we find out about his niece Jamie. And the reason this one's lower than all the other ones that I have coming up is because for me it was just kind of thrown in there. We never really find out that Laurie Strode has a daughter or ever married anybody or ever had a kid in general. We don't find out she's dead. And so they're just like, oh yeah, he's tracking down his niece. Well, I had to look up whose kid it was because he did have another sister, before that. So it could have been like the daughter of his sister that he killed in the first one or something, and she was a little bit older, but whatever. But apparently it was Laurie Strode's daughter. I didn't know that. They could have had a lot more go into this movie with explaining the continuity of Laurie Strode having a daughter, and showed, or at least mentioned, that they died. I mean, yeah, they did say that her mother died, or that she misses her mother, or misses her parents, whatever. We're led to assume that her mother is Laurie Strode, so I mean, I guess if you use common sense, you can kind of figure it out, but still, I just wish they would have kind of put it together a little bit more. Next, and these next couple are probably going to be controversial for where I rank them at, but Halloween Ends I put here because I did like it a little bit better than some of the original ones, and I didn't hate on Halloween Ends, and I think it actually did end this time, because, spoiler alert for it if you haven't seen it, Michael ends up inside a like a scrapyard, I guess being like a metal destroyer thing. I don't, a scrapper, I guess you could call it. I don't know. But he ends up getting his body shredded into pieces by Laurie Strode, of course, and her granddaughter. Because, see, now there's more continuity, which I know technically the new continuity for Halloween goes the original Halloween and then jumps 40 years to Halloween 2018, and then Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So all of this in between, with Laurie having a daughter named Jamie, then Laurie having a son in H2O, then Laurie having a daughter again in the new ones, doesn't really matter because the new ones are the direct sequels to the original. It's confusing. So Laurie's daughter, her granddaughter, and Laurie Strode end up finishing off Michael Myers once and for all. So the next one I have then is Halloween Kills, which was the one before that. I thought it was pretty good. They had this fight scene with these different people in the middle of the street, and they actually get the mask off and stuff. And then of course there's stupid people. Like, why wouldn't you, when he's down on the ground, why wouldn't you just go and make sure he's dead before you leave the mask there or whatever, and then they just kind of let him stand up and put the mask back on. Like, you could have been attacking him while he was trying to do that, but whatever. But I didn't mind Halloween Kills. It was a fun movie, and I did see it in theaters. I've rewatched it, obviously. So next is Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. It is one of my favorites. The scene with Michael in the hospital, and in the hospital, chasing after Laurie Strode, who's in the hospital. And then him and Loomis go at it, and Laurie shoots him in the eyes, and it was an awesome movie, and it was obviously a direct sequel to the original. And the best part is it actually picked up right where it left off. So it left off with Michael. The original one left off with Michael after he fell out of the window, or Loomis shot him out the window, and then he gets back up and disappears. This one starts off right there where they're actually looking for him in Haddonfield, and they find out about who died in the killing spree and things. Yeah, so it was a pretty good movie for being a direct sequel to the original. Next is Halloween 2018, which I'm controversial again, but I liked it better than Halloween 2 as a direct sequel to the original Halloween. I thought it was okay as a movie. I know a lot of people hate on it for whatever reason. But I thought it was a good direct sequel. They covered everything too, I think, or at least most of it, with where Michael's been, how he got back to Smith's Grove in these 40 years. The fact they mentioned that, I think they actually mention it later, that somebody's the one that found him on the run and brought him in. It might have actually been in that movie. I think it was when Sheriff, was it Brackett, says that he was the one that found him or something. One of the cops was the one that found him. But I just think that the gore in this new one, and more of like the horror and the way that Laurie Strode is acting in this movie, where she's so paranoid that her entire house is literally a trap for Michael Myers, and anything there can be used as a weapon to make sure that he doesn't escape again, which I think was really cool, just to show the mental downfall of Laurie Strode, basically, where she basically lost custody of her daughter Karen. She never got to really see her granddaughter as much as she wanted to, at least. She kind of isolated herself, started practicing with different weapons and things in different ways on how she could defeat Michael finally. And then, of course, Michael escapes and tracks down Laurie Strode. How he knew where she was, I don't know. Because I know Dr. Sartain, who's basically the new Samuel Loomis, he starts bringing him to the house so that he can be with Laurie. So I guess that could be, and then he just had to walk through the woods to find the home. But yeah, so all that stuff had to play out basically so that he could get back to Laurie. But there's a lot of introduction to different characters and things, which I was okay with, and it did show that Michael was still willing to also attack other people, not just Laurie Strode. And so it wasn't, anybody that got in his way, basically. And I'm questioning whether or not he knew at that time that her granddaughter was related to her, because he kind of did like follow her granddaughter in a way. So it was kind of like, maybe he did have that connection. Maybe he did know, he could sense that she was related to Laurie Strode, and that's why he went after her. That would be something cool to explore at some point, but that's why that one's there. And then, of course, my favorite has to be the original Halloween. I mean, you can't top that. It was one of the first horror movies I watched, and it's such a classic, for coming out in the late 70s. It's a great horror movie. If you haven't seen the original Halloween, and you're going to watch any of these off of this list, watch the original Halloween, because that's probably the only one that you really need to watch. The rest of these could just kind of not exist, and you would still be fine with having a good movie that doesn't really end. I mean, yeah, it does end on a cliffhanger with Michael disappearing after he shot out the window. But really, you could have just ended it there and just been like, okay, Michael has supernatural abilities, and we're done. And just been done, and it would have been a fine ending. And yeah, it would have left you wanting more for a long time. But I think they did well with the first one. So that's why, obviously, it's my favorite. You can't beat originals for most of these, for any type of movie, really. I mean, even the original Star Wars movies are better than the new ones. Same with Jaws and all of that. So anyways, guys, there you go. That's all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed everything we did this year for Halloween. If you want to see anything specific based off of these videos, just let us know. We can do those. If you haven't already, go check out what else we did on the channel for Halloween. I had my top 20 horror movies. I did Jaws versus Orca, which was really fun. And then Steven had a couple videos, and we did one with guess the horror movie actor in 20 questions or less. So go check those out if you haven't already. Stay tuned for what else we got going on, and happy Halloween.